Art for me is an instinct. We could write sonnets, novels, endless essays about why we make art, but I doubt any artist could point to one precise reason and say, that's it. There might be many reasons woven together, but I've realized that creating anything is very much like hunger. You feel it, you know it's there, it's a need. And I think that's what makes the act of creating so cathartic. It takes you beyond reason, beyond logic, beyond all the boundaries that you've put in your mind. And I think it even takes you beyond happiness. Happiness is like this ultimate goal that we have for ourselves. And I think art is something that takes us even beyond that to a space that is calm, quiet, but also pulsating with the essence of life. The place where the world fades away and sometimes you even forget yourself. It doesn't happen every time, of course, but when it does, it feels like the highest pinnacle and also the deepest part of you at the same time. Even working within a single art form is an ocean to navigate, and I feel lucky and humbled. I have had the instinct as well as the opportunities to put my energy into different forms of art. As a child, I was encouraged to follow my curiosity wherever it led, and I think it is that constant reaching out, that need, that feel to go a little further each time, is what has helped me to sustain a multidisciplinary practice. Of course, when art becomes your livelihood, you start to place expectations on it, and it's easier if those expectations stay away from the act of creating itself. It's about holding on to that space that goes beyond reason, and it still belongs to that place which is instinctive and spontaneous. At the heart of it, I think I'm always asking, what is it about art that makes us think and feel, but also makes us to go beyond thinking and feeling? I've always felt my art is inherently syncretic. Technique matters deeply to me. I'm not comfortable taking technique of any art form for granted. But at the same time, I'm equally invested in understanding the history, the cultural developments, the significance, and the future potentialities of every art form that I work with. But again, when it comes to creating, that's a point where everything that I've studied has to be let go and the instinct and the spontaneity take over. Not every work I make is interdisciplinary, of course, and I think I'm still very far from where I'd like to be within that space. And to be honest, it's not even my ultimate goal. I'm very much invested in exploring the potentialities and the boundaries within each art form and how far I can stretch each of them. And at the same time, to allow this interdisciplinary essence to develop very spontaneously and also to allow it to not develop within a work if it's not natural. Today we use terms like multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary quite a lot, but in truth I feel that's how art has always existed. Look at cave paintings. The images of animals, of human palms, they weren't separate from life. They were part of the hunting, the rituals, and the survival of people at those times. In ancient Indian art, temple sculptures drew directly from dance and dance texts, while the Ragamala paintings were rooted within musical ragas. In Western tradition, artists like Leonardo da Vinci never boxed these different disciplines apart. Science, art, anatomy, engineering all kind of spoke to each other. And that's the actual nature of art itself. It is fluid, it is interconnected, and it is in constant conversation with life and with each other. The challenge is to let these conversations evolve naturally and not force them just to make it interdisciplinary and put the label on it. Because every art form is extremely malleable if you really learn how to look at it, and each has multiple layers beneath the surface, and it is in exploring these hidden layers that really fascinate me and that drive my process at the heart of it. It might not even be very obvious or visible to other people, but playing with these hidden layers, discovering them, is one of the greatest joys of creating. If I had to sum up my visual art practice and research right now, I'd call it a marriage between Indian philosophy and Western art history. I think as human beings, we are always drawn to exploring the unfamiliar, seeking out new ideas, learning new things. And because I was predominantly working with Indian mythology and religious narratives within classical dance, my visual art practice naturally gravitated towards Western traditions and schools of thought, perhaps in search of what I didn't already know and what was new and what felt new to me. But over time, my lived experience with Indian philosophical concepts has become increasingly central to what I want to express through my drawings and paintings. And working through these ideas and mythological elements within visual arts rather than through dance has been really revelatory, because mythological stories will always be endlessly rich, open to infinite interpretations. But thinking about what is modern mythology and the idea that we as humans are each living miniature mythologies ourselves has given me a really fresh set of, ideas to work from. And what fascinates me most is how these philosophies and artistic traditions, whether Eastern or Western, don't just influence us from the outside, they live within us and they live through us. Of course, not all the thinking happens before you begin a work. Much of it also unfolds in the process. The ideas of duality, non duality, the concept of reincarnation and soul genetics as is being explored within science today. These are some of the things that truly interest me most. These are what I use to create ruptured narratives, modern mythologies within my work. The figures, as usual, are almost all taken from found photographs, but also from various master drawings from various time periods. So through this process, I've been able to create or try and create dialogues between the past and the present, between tradition, transformation, what all these terms actually mean. One of the things that I get really overwhelmed with within visual arts is the amount of choice that you have. So even if you take a single figure, the way you render it, the choices you make within the kind of lines, the gestures and the expressions, they define the context and the meaning of the end result so much, kind of makes you feel afraid almost, because even a simple change in a gesture from this to this could completely change the context or the meaning of a composition. And I don't just mean that stylistically in terms of it being realistic or surreal, but even in the small choices you make of, a small line, a small dot, the miniature details that you either put in the work or you don't put in the work, and you don't know where those choices come from, where those little stories appear from within you, from around you, from things you have seen, felt, remembered, forgotten. It's like an amazing internal symphony that you are giving a visual form to. There is so much to discover and unearth through each step, and if this journey is fueled with curiosity and humility, I think it can be one of the greatest journeys of transformation that a person can experience and become a living process of joy, not just for the artists themselves, but also for anybody who engages with art.